In today's story, the character will be named Aron, fictionally, to protect the individual's identity because the story is based on a real incident. Aron received a mail one day with no return address. He did not think much of it and shoved it in his drawer with his other mails. He was a bit lazy, so he left checking them for later. A few weeks later, he received another similar mail, which he ignored as usual. However, this time he had some free time on his hands. So later that evening, he sat down with his unsorted and unread mails to clear them out since he had nothing else to do. That's when he noticed the unusual mails. Aron opened them and was confused at the content. The first mail had a blank paper with nothing more than one word: Aron's middle name. It may not sound significant, but for someone who has never even mentioned having a middle name with anyone, receiving a mail with nothing but precisely that information was baffling. Aron then checked the other mail, which contained 3 surveillance photographs of him leaving a bookstore on 3 separate days. Aron visited that store only thrice each year, and the pictures were of each of his visits that year. His first thought was that he was being stalked. Without looking further into the matter, Aron informed the police. When he was called to provide all the details of the matter, Aron showed them the mails he had received and told them his understanding of the issue. The police could not bring themselves to believe Aron's story because it seemed highly unlikely to be the work of a stalker. Aron persisted that he was telling the truth, but he was dismissed as another prankster. A couple of weeks passed and nothing new happened, which led him to believe that it might all have been a crazy coincidence. However, that was until a month later when he began to hear things. More specifically, he would hear someone whisper his name in his sleep. Aron would wake up in the dead of night, frantically looking around to see who was there, but there was no one. He was alone in his small apartment. Aron was an atheist, but after a couple of incidences of whispers, his beliefs began to tremble. He brought a couple of Christ crosses and hung them in his room. According to his friend's belief, the cross protected from evil spirits, whether one was a believer or not. A day or 2 passed in peace, but Aron was still vigilant at all times. 2 days later, the things in Aron's house began to change places. For instance, he would sleep with his prescription glasses and his phone on his side table, but would find one or both of them on his dressing table or in the bathroom when he woke up. At first, he dismissed it as his absent-mindedness, but it only took him a couple of incidents to realize that was not the case. Soon his mind connected the dots and concluded that he was wrong about the stalker. He was actually being haunted. Without further ado, Aron went to a priest. He explained the events according to his understanding and convinced the priest that he or his house was being haunted. The priest accepted his invitation and set a date to cleanse the house and his soul. A couple of weeks after the priest's visit went by in peace. At first, Aron was still on his toes, but when he saw no signs of any sort, he began to believe the issue had been resolved. He was relaxed once again, but not for long, for this time there was a call. But what was even more shocking was whom it was from. After about a month of silence, Aron received a call one day, but when the speaker began to talk, Aron froze in his spot. You are one of the dumbest people ever. Did you know that, Aron? The speaker began with a cocky, condescending tone, a hint of mischief lying underneath. Police? Priest? What next? A rocket scientist? Aron was not as worried about what he was saying as much as he was about who was saying it. The speaker sounded exactly like him. It was as if Aron was talking to himself. Aron stood speechless at the center of his kitchen while the caller talked about Aron's activities in the past few weeks. It was as if this guy was watching him all the time. Aron stayed in his spot throughout the 10-minute call, and the caller hung up when he was done talking. The bizarre calls became the norm. Every night at exactly 2:36 a.m., Aron's phone would ring, and it would be the same guy. He would tell Aron what he had been doing, his plans, and how easy it was for him to mess with Aron's life if he wanted to. Not only that, but he would also pinpoint the people, objects, and events that he could use or affect to mess with Aron. Frightened, he was too accurate. It was as if he could look inside Aron's life as well as his head. About a month of those calls was enough to spin Aron's mind out of control. He lost his sleep, his focus, his composure, everything. All he could ever think of was that he was being watched, and by someone whom he knew absolutely nothing about. Eventually, Aron had to see a psychiatrist to help him sleep. The lady he went to see treated his condition as a hallucination, which Aron did not realize immediately. After a few sessions, he felt betrayed when he grasped onto it, as if the psychiatrist was never on his side to begin with. That day, he lashed out at her and told her to see it for herself. Once the lady agreed, he took her home the next day and sat her down in the living room. They waited for the clock to hit 2:36 in the morning, and on the dot, the phone rang. "I see you have a visitor today, Aron." "Hi, doctor." "First things first, he is not hallucinating. I am very real. And secondly, Aron, my dear buddy, what can a psychiatrist possibly do for you? I never did anything to harm you, did I? I just want to talk." Aron quickly hung up and looked at the doctor with the "I told you so" look. The doctor was baffled, to say the least. She apologized to Aron and agreed to prescribe him some sleep medications. A few weeks later, she was having a conversation with one of her senior colleagues when an interesting topic came on. They were talking about DID, dissociative identity disorder. During the conversation, one of the doctors mentioned how sometimes the personalities can exist without the owner of the body knowing it. The following discussion clicked something in Aron's psychiatrist's mind. She looked into her notes on Aron's sessions and examined the details he had shared with her. Aron had hinted at memory blanks, but neither he nor his psychiatrist had picked up on that. As she went through Aron's session notes, she realized there were regular memory blanks all between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., and there was no link to the events before and after the blank. For instance, Aron would remember going to bed, but would not remember why he woke up on the couch on some days. She then looked into the places the caller had mentioned during his calls, but were never discussed by Aron. One look through the surveillance footage of some specific dates revealed that Aron had indeed visited them, but when she asked him about it, he would deny having any recollection of doing so. Bit by bit, she could see the puzzles solving. Almost every piece had been connected, but one thing remained unsolved: the calls. The psychiatrist could not understand how Aron was getting those calls. Call it nature's favoritism, but she coincidentally found her last piece of the puzzle during her investigation. Aron was seen walking into a phone shop in one footage's background. Nothing about that shop was mentioned by either the caller or Aron. When she checked the shop footage, she found Aron buying a very particular phone. She asked the shopkeeper about its features, and something stood out. There was an option to record a conversation and schedule it to deliver at a particular time. It all made sense now. The memory blanks, the inside information, the footages, the calls, the caller's voice, and acts were all connected. Aron was suffering from DID, and his split personality was bothering him. Once it was sorted out, the psychiatrist helped him deal with the other personality and treated him, something neither the police nor the priest could reach was well within the reach of Aron's psychiatrist.